Hi, I'm Jenny Rosenkrantz with the University of Maryland Extension, and with me now is Heather Martin. Hi, Heather.
Hi. Hi.
It is May, and May means that it can be cold and rainy like it is today, or really warm and sunny, but still it's perfect spring garden. So tell us about this wonderful garden.
This is the Healing Rose Community Garden, and this garden is for survivors of cancer, breast cancer and gynecological cancers particularly. And so they tend to these areas, and they are able to harvest the vegetables from here too to eat healthier diets. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and explore the garden, see what they've got growing, and we're going to also show you the right way to plant some tomato plants. We've got some awesome tomato plants here, and squash, which are planted totally different. So join us for Delmarva Gardens coming up next, right here on Pack 14. Well, this is going to be an awesome community garden. This is really cool. What I like is you've got all different types of tomatoes, and I've got some squash, so we're going to go ahead and plant them. But I was noticing that you have this week's garden tasks.
Yeah.
And for a community garden, everybody has to have a part in it. So what do you have going here?
So this week what we've done, we've put numbers on each of the raised beds.
Okay.
And that's just so I can tell people, you know, you can harvest spinach from bed 1.
Oh, good.
So I'll show you that in a second.
Uh-huh.
Just some general weeding. We've started to transplant some spring spinach, carrots, parsnips, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So, and each time they do a task, they just initial it off.
Oh, they've got some seeded carrots and parsnips.
Yeah.
Remove broken planters. That's a smart idea.
Yes.
You know, you always want the garden to look good.
Yes.
Okay. Organized compost area. Is that a big area?
Not a big area. It's a small at first. We're
Okay.
hoping to grow it, but yeah, we can see that too.
All right, that's good, good. And then you have general cleanup, trash, etc. That's very good.
Keeping the space clean and safe for everybody to move around in is important for us. So
that is important. Well, I'll tell you, why don't we just get a tour of the garden first? Let's go ahead and put our little guys down.
All right.
And let's get a tour of the garden because, like I said, this is a community garden. This is a healing garden, and it's everybody has to have a workplace, I guess. It's not just something you can go ahead and enjoy and look at. You have to have some skin in the game, I guess is the term.
Yeah.
So, okay, should we go over this way first?
Sure.
Okay, good. You know, springtime and peas always, to me, go so well together. These are beautiful. When did you plant them?
I seeded those second week of March.
Wow, so they always have to be cold.
Yes.
I had to pull a weed. I'm sorry, this is just one of the things that I had to do. It's a community garden, everybody has to do it.
Yes.
And what are these guys? They look like onions.
Yeah, these are green onions. So,
Okay.
a lot of times what I'll do when I have something tall, trellised, I'll plant along the sides of them, especially things that need more shade.
That's true.
So as it gets warmer, they'll gain the shade too.
Right.
And then we utilize the space as well.
That's a good idea. Yeah. And every time these get a little bit higher, you can go ahead and add another line so that they'll continue to grow. Yep. That's awesome.
I added this string on Monday, and they've already, you know, you can see how they've definitely found the string, and so I'll add another one soon.
Wrapping around as we speak, they're like, okay, this is where I want it to be. Look at that. Isn't that neat? That is so cool. You know, I know that some people will eat the pea tendrils, but I'd rather just let them go ahead and get established first. Yes. Okay. Oh, spinach.
Yep.
Wow.
This is our spinach bed.
It looks like it's ready to harvest.
Yeah, we've actually been harvesting this week.
Then that means that I need to taste this. See how it
taste this.
This is freshly washed. Nature did that for us.
Yep.
You know, people don't realize what fresh spinach tastes like until they actually grow it themselves. And I like having it in this type of soil because quite often if you grow it on the shore with our sandy soils, you get a lot of sand in it. And this way you don't get the sand.
Yeah, this stays pretty clean.
I can continue to weed.
Yep. Looks like we have some volunteer arugula in here too, but that's fine.
That's good.
As well, so.
That's good. Yeah. And you know, I was thinking also, since this is a community garden, there's going to be people here on a daily basis, a couple of times a day, looking at it. And as they're looking, they're probably going, look, there's another weed or something like that. So that's perfect.
Yeah,
this is good. So you've got the greens here. When did you plant these?
These were seeded, let's see, about 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is about prime harvest time, and
Right.
again, if you can kind of harvest the leaves like we did to taste it, and then it'll just keep regenerating. So we'll harvest this for several weeks.
Okay, so basically the 1st of May through the end of May.
Yeah.
And all this yummy spinach. Oh, I've got so many good recipes for fresh spinach.
Yes, me too. It's good.
You have some
Good
more
stuff.
greens behind us. Let's go
I
ahead and
do.
take a look at those.
Okay.
So what are these?
This is
So, oh, this is all the different types of lettuces. Look how colorful it is.
Yeah, this is our salad mix bed.
Wow. You know, it almost looks like a
Beautiful.
quilt. It really
Yes,
does.
it
All the
does.
beautiful colors and
Patchwork.
textures. We were talking about in the spinach bed how the soil doesn't have all the sand as like at our usual soils on the Eastern Shore, because this is a raised bed, and which makes it nice. It doesn't matter how tall you are, or if you're even in a wheelchair, you can get to this and still help work
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah, you
As
can
a community
reach
garden, it's
across.
perfect. Yes, it can. So what type of soil do you use in here?
This is a soil product from Blue Hen Organics.
Okay.
And they're located in Delaware.
Uh-huh.
They do sell compost, but this is a topsoil compost blend.
Okay, so it's the compost in there for a slow release fertilizer, but
Yes.
also the
Topsoil as well.
Right.
Yeah, so it's been a great product. We just, keep adding organic material compost
Yeah.
each season or each time we plant, but it's been wonderful for us. So
Good.
and most of the community gardens in the area use this product as well.
That's good. When I talk about adding compost, especially to a vegetable garden, every time you add fresh compost to a garden, it seems to me that you're adding not only nutrition to the soil, you're helping improve the soil tilth, getting a little bit more oxygen into the soil, as well as water holding capacity, in my opinion. And it just seems like everything just grows so much better. I think that there's something also, I think there's the beneficial organisms in here actually sometimes help fight some of the soil-borne diseases.
Absolutely, yes. The healthier the soil, the less problem that we have with pests and disease. One thing I also teach my gardeners is every time you plant or weed, just to kind of aerate the soil a little bit between the rows, and that just allows again for that airflow to the roots and that kind of thing. So.
Because not everybody realizes that roots actually need oxygen to breathe.
Exactly.
They know that the plants need water, but they also need to breathe oxygen too.
Exactly.
So this is almost ready to harvest.
Yeah, we'll probably start harvesting this next week. So. And that's a lettuce mix over there.
Right.
And this is a mix of all different types of salad greens. So if you were to buy a clamshell of salad mix in the grocery store, it would be a combination of what you see here. So we do that ourselves here.
This is so cool. Now, how long has this been seeded?
Same time as the spinach, so about four
a
weeks.
month ago.
Yeah.
Okay, 4
Yeah.
weeks. So it doesn't really take all that long, and it just
Right.
does so beautifully. Will you replant a salad mix later on?
Yeah, and this can be harvested again for several weeks. And what we do is we just sort of take scissors and cut along about midway down.
Uh-huh.
And it will also regenerate. So this can be harvested for a few weeks, and then we'll seed another bed of salad mix that
That's
we
great.
will probably have to shade. But
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but then isn't that wonderful? You can go ahead and keep it growing, even though it's going to be hotter. But by adding shade, we're controlling,
you
sort
can
of.
control some of those conditions.
Yes.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you've got some more things for us to take a look at. Shall we
do.
explore some more?
Sure.
All right.
Yes.
Oh, strawberries. Oh, Heather, these are awesome.
Yeah, it's almost time for them.
Yeah, you know, you're right. May, Mother's Day, and
About the
strawberries, they all kind of go together.
Yeah.
So do the mayflies, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yes. But that's okay. That's okay. The strawberries are so worth it. So these are not the first year they've been here, correct?
This is the second year for these
Okay.
strawberries, so we're hoping for a lot more production. We had some strawberries last season, but
Yeah.
it's looking like we're going to get more of a harvest this year. So
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, did you have to? We had a lot of warm temperatures followed by cold temperatures, followed by warm temperatures. Cold. Did you have to do any kind of covering for these?
I did cover these with a Remay product.
Yes.
It's a fabric.
Okay.
And that was enough to keep a couple of those cold nights
Good.
off of them. So they look like they've survived it and they're doing fine.
They
So.
do. I had some old flannel sheets. I was tossing them on
Yeah.
all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. Now, one thing that I noticed that you've got some mulch coming on here. And when you have strawberries, if you have the strawberries growing right on the soil, sometimes the soil, especially after rain, the sand and all that can get onto it. And this is in the ground, but you've actually amended this with compost, right?
Yes, I have composted this, and then I'll finish this mulching project.
Okay.
Finish that off.
And that'll keep the berries better,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
I might have to stop by and inspect these.
You're more than welcome to.
Okay, so we've got some plants that we're going to go ahead and plant, but we're going to have to add some compost first.
That's
Are you
right.
ready to do that?
I'm ready.
It's a perfect day to do it. Let's do
All right.
it. So last year you had tomatoes here, but you had them on the side that was facing the parking lot. So you're going to
Yes.
have it on this side this time?
Yep. We're going to
Okay,
plant them on
good.
the other side.
All right. So you have a plan in place, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
So the way we're planting the tomatoes, first of all, we're going to use the bricks for spacing. So I've kind of marked out where I want my first tomato here.
Okay.
And then about 2 feet away from that would be here.
Okay,
so we're going
good.
to use 3 bricks in between the two.
Oh, that's easy.
2 spaces.
That,
yeah.
that,
so
that means
helps.
that if somebody else was out here helping you, that would still make it easy for them. Okay.
Right, and I can give those instructions rather than expecting them to bring a
Tape
measuring
measure,
tape and all
yes.
of that out here. That's a little bit more user friendly for
Right.
most people. So.
Right. Now you've already this soil's been worked up. But we're still going to go ahead and add some more compost. Now you mentioned that this is a different compost.
Yeah, so this is a product that is produced locally.
Okay, good.
It's called LWP compost.
Oh, yeah, we've worked with them before.
Yeah,
Yes.
Kate Layfield.
Yes. Okay. Good.
This can be purchased right at Farmers and Planters, and if I need a small amount of compost, I'll use this.
Yeah, because you mentioned the blue hen has to have like a whole pickup truck or a dump truck.
Exactly.
Oh, that's yeah.
So if you just need a small amount, this is a good way to go.
Good enough.
for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much do you add to the soil when you're going to do your tomatoes?
So we want to make sure we dig a deep enough hole. Tomatoes want to be, pretty deep.
Right.
So we'll dig a little bit of a hole, and we'll use about a shovelful
Okay.
size, and mix that in with the dirt that we're going to put back into the hole. when we
Okay.
plant it.
All right. Now, sometimes when you're doing tomatoes, Heather and I talked about this, is we could add like a quarter to a half a cup of lime. And the reason why you would add lime is made up of calcium and magnesium. And calcium, the calcium molecule that comes through, or the nutrient, is what prevents the tomatoes from getting blossom end rot, which is really not a disease, but it makes it look like a disease. So it's one of those things you go ahead and prepare the soil the right way, and you can go ahead and prevent diseases or something that looks like a disease down the road. So this is good. Okay, so how can I help?
All right, so do you want to dig the first hole right here?
Sure.
All right. And she's going to just put that dirt off to the side.
So you can see that there's a lot of good topsoil on top, but we've got our eastern shore sand on the bottom.
Yep, that's still there.
Yes.
We're working on that.
And that's why it's good to keep planting your garden. Now, I bet you have an awful lot of earthworms in here too.
I do, yes.
And they are actually nature's gardeners. I love them.
yeah.
Okay, so if I deep, okay, good.
That's
You
pretty
can see
good,
that that's pretty much sand on the bottom, so that's why we're going to add compost.
Yeah. So I'm just going to sprinkle this in what we've dug out. Mm-hmm. And we can go ahead and plant one of our tomatoes.
Okay.
This is a Russian heirloom tomato, which is it's called Moscovich, and this will produce beautiful, just ripe red tomatoes. Very productive.
Nice.
But they are an heirloom tomato plant, so
Okay.
not modified or anything like that.
So do you break up the root system a little bit?
I do. I'll kind of just massage the root system a bit,
Right.
just to kind of loosen that up. And then another thing we want to do with tomatoes is we've got a little volunteer here that we'll pull out, so it's not fighting. And then we'll take off these suckers.
Okay.
So we'll just take off a couple of these, the bottommost ones, before we plant it. And we're going to plant it about that deep.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and do that. So maybe we'll put some of this back in.
Lovely.
And that is our first tomato of the 2016 season.
Wonderful. And the nice thing about this soil is it's so light and airy. It's really easy to dig. We don't have anything that's really bad here. What did you have here before? Celery?
Celery.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's a cold crop, so we still might find some?
Could. Yes, we might find some along the way.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and plant a couple more.
Okay. dig.
1, 2, 3 here. Good enough. You bring the compost and I'll dig the hole.
All right.
I like those Russian tomatoes. They have a good flavor and they're pretty.
Yes. Nice, beautiful red tomato.
Yes. You know, what I think about heirloom tomatoes is some people call them the ugly tomatoes because they're not perfect looking, but the flavor is what you go for.
Yes.
The flavor is awesome.
Yes, I always choose my tomatoes based on flavor, and a lot of the heirloom varieties, they're not bred to have all those beautiful, perfect characteristics, but the taste is really what you're getting.
Exactly.
With those.
Okay, I'm going to get rid of the cotyledons and just these two.
Yep, that
All
one
right.
probably too.
So I just took off all that stuff right there.
And that's going to send the plant's energy up to
Yes.
to where we want it to go.
And I massage the roots. Into the soil we go. There we go. That is so pretty.
It's always exciting to plant tomatoes. It's
I think
a
so.
favorite around here. So.
Well, and actually working in the ground is so therapeutic.
Yep.
For so many people on
absolutely
so many
is.
levels. This is so
It
cool.
is.
Okay, so 3 more.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So over here.
Yep, that
Good.
looks good.
All right, good. So we're doing 3 bricks. 1, 2, 3.
So the tomatoes want to be about 2 feet apart. I allow them just because that gives plenty of space for harvesting. And these tomatoes are what we call indeterminate, so they will keep growing and growing and growing as long as you let them.
Now, I was just recently asked by somebody who said, if you prune them to a height that's easier to pick, will that stop them from growing? And to me, I think an indeterminate tomato will always try to continue to grow.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
will always try, and a lot of times we do end up having to prune them back just because they're hard to control.
Yes.
But that's more in the later stages. But they'll get, they could get about 10 feet tall if we left them.
They certainly could. Not being 10 feet tall,
No.
I'll grab a tomato. Are there any other varieties that you grow here?
Yes, so we've got in that tray, there's also a red cherry tomato called Washington cherry.
Ooh.
And there's also another heirloom variety called Cherokee purple.
Ooh. Oh, those are cool because they are purpley.
Yes.
Okay. So once again, I'm going to massage the roots. See, what I usually do is I kind of crack them, but it's interesting that you just massage them a little bit. Okay, and right here, that looks like a little leaf, but that is the cotyledon. That's the original seed coating, or the seed for the tomato. And it has all the nutrients in the very, very beginning. It's kind of like the peanut butter and jelly sandwich the mother plant packed with the seed. And what it does is the root comes out first, and then this guy opens up, and the first true leaves begin to grow. And as soon as it's done all its job, it turns yellow. And a lot of people kind of get freaky about, oh no, my tomato's turning yellow. It's like, no, that's the original cotyledon. So we can go ahead and prune that out. Okay, we're going to prune this one out here and this, and we're going to bury it to this height or depth. Okay, here we go. There's so much to talk about when you're planting things.
There is.
But we can actually plant too. Very cool.
All right.
Lovely. Okay, so 1, 2. Well, even though it's kind of a misty, rainy day, when I plant things, I always feel that I should water them in. You feel the same way?
Yeah, it just kind of tucks them in and settles everything down. And
Okay.
gives them some
All right.
water available.
So, okay, you just use a soft spray. That's a good one. I like that.
And it doesn't need much because you can see that we've already had quite a bit of rain.
Right. So the soil's already moist. When the
Yes.
soil's not moist, I think you need to do a little bit more.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
But again, having this garden where people do not walk in it, you're not compacting the soil. And I like the steps that you have through there too. That's really good.
Yeah, that's just because some people aren't sure if they can walk through certain areas, so I try to make it so that they know they can walk there.
Well, that way you're harvesting on this side, you can also harvest on the other side.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we have some squash. They're kind of neat, but they're in a different container, so let's talk about that.
Okay.
Good. So this is another raised bed, and this is going to be for our squash. This is good because squash needs a little bit of room to grow.
It does.
All right.
Yes,
Yeah, put this right here on top of the
sure
chickweed.
can, yeah.
There we go. Okay, we're going to do something different. You were talking about adding some of the compost here and then raking it in with a rake. Oh,
Yeah.
That is
got it right
wild. That
here.
looks wicked. What is it called?
I'm not really sure. I call it a flat rake. But,
Wow.
it helps sort of break up the soil as you're raking too. I find it really useful for a couple different tasks.
Sounds good.
Like that. So yeah.
All right. Okay, well, I'll do the raking and you do the adding of the
All
compost.
right, that sounds good.
All right, we can do this. And when you do this, you're probably going to get rid of some of the weeds there, too.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So it's
Look
good
at
for that too. And I'll come behind you and add compost.
Okay, all right. I'll get rid of some of these little weeds. In the early springtime, you have a lot of winter annual weeds. And then in the summertime, you have all the summer annual weeds. You never get rid of weeds. They're always there. Lovely. And I like the fact that the compost is a different color. It lets you know where you are.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the other thing I like about this compost is it's a nice color. It tells you there's some life in there.
Yes. I see some morning glory weeds coming up already. That's amazing.
So we could stop around half of the bed.
All right.
Now.
So that makes it easy. Then go back.
Yeah, so what we can also do, now we have our compost on,
Okay.
we can take a fork like this,
Okay.
and I'll just sort of come through here and stick the fork in and just kind of twist it.
Oh, all right.
And that sort of allows some of that compost to go down into the, a little lower.
And it also gets the soil nice and loose.
Exactly. And you can do this especially after you've had, I've had a couple of rains on this since I've amended it, so it sort of helps loosen things up a bit. And then if you come behind me and rake it, we'll have
I
a
can
nice
do that.
smooth surface.
Make it look all professional. Very nice. Now I like the width of these beds also because we can go ahead and reach them
Exactly.
without
yes.
overstraining ourselves. And I think that that's really important. People, sometimes when they get a garden started, especially in the early springtime, it's so easy to go, oh, I want more, I want more. I can handle more.
Exactly. Be kind to yourselves when you're gardening.
I like that term.
Yeah. It applies to life and gardening.
Yes, it does. The philosophy of the gardener. Be
Yes.
kind. I like that. This is good. And I think the other thing is people don't realize how far apart plants have to be. You know, the University of Maryland has got some great fact sheets on gardening, and one of them that I love is, it's been around forever, but it's still so good. It basically tells you the planting dates for seeds and plants, and it also tells you how many feet of rows you need per person and how far apart the plants need to be.
It's a wonderful resource. I use it a lot to, when I'm telling people, when they ask me those questions, I refer them to that often.
Yeah. There we go.
All right.
Neat. Okay. So now we get to plant. I noticed this time with these guys, I'm going to put this over here
Yes.
so we will not be around it.
This is another gardening tip. When you're putting a tool down, just put it down so you don't step on it and hit yourself.
That's a good idea.
So. Okay. So what we have here, this is some zucchini squash.
Ooh,
Okay.
nice.
So we can do that on this side here.
All right.
And this is a different type of container.
This is basically a peat moss type of container.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you can plant the plant right in that.
Right. I've found that I like to take maybe the top inch off
Yes.
because otherwise I've noticed that it wicks the water away from the plant almost.
Right. And I've also read that you could take the bottom off. I don't know how you do. You take the bottom off?
I do also.
Yeah.
That way it just that way the roots don't have a problem.
Yeah.
But if you have, like for instance, any cutworms in the garden in a regular garden, it helps keep the cutworms away from it a little
Okay,
bit.
that's I can see how that would.
Yeah.
And a lot of people grow squash just direct seeding it right into the soil. But I do transplants for my first planting just to kind of get them established early
Good.
on. So I usually have squash maybe a little earlier than I would if I just
Right, because
direct seeded.
they like the soil to be warm, and right now the soil is still kind of chilly.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Go ahead and that one can go
I'm going to go ahead and just pull this down a
Here?
little bit. And since this is peat moss based, I can just go ahead and leave this stuff right here, and it will compost into the soil.
Yes.
There we go. So I'm just basically taking off like the first ½ inch to ½ inch. You can see those beautiful white roots. Aren't they fabulous? Let's see how the roots look on the bottom. Then the other thing is, you can do this and you're not hurting the plant at all. There we go. Look at those roots. Aren't they gorgeous? Okay, good. Now these we're just going to plant right beside.
Yep.
Okay. So here's okay.
Yep, that looks
There we
good.
go. Grow.
All right.
Okay, you space them and I'll prep them.
Okay.
There we go. It's almost like, working in the kitchen. You have a chef and a sous chef.
That's right.
The sous chef is the one that gets all the food prepped, and then the chef does all the hard work. Yeah, right. It's a companion thing. You have to work together. There we go. There we go. Lovely. So zucchinis. So many different recipes for zucchinis.
It's one of my favorite vegetables. It's so versatile. And now a lot of people are using vegetable peelers to make sort of noodles out of zucchini, and it can be used as like pasta.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Raw or cooked?
It's been raw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's good.
That's pretty cool.
So if you're trying to cut out, pasta and those kinds of good things.
Right.
That's an
Like a
option.
low carb diet.
Yes.
That would be interesting. Oh, wow. See, you keep on learning every day. Lovely. All right. This looks so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And all we have to do now is just water them in, and
right.
we have got the garden going.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
This has been
you're
fun.
welcome.
Well, you guys have had a chance to visit a community garden. You've seen how we can plant certain plants. Tomatoes need to be planted a little deeper. These guys don't like to be planted deeper. And I like the idea that you started them earlier in April, so that in May, when you planted them when the soil is still not quite warm enough, they'll still get
Still pretty hardy.
a fresh start. So this is good. So thank you guys also for joining us for Delmarva Gardens right here on Pack 14.